Hello and welcome to Microsoft Hates Greg. My name is Greg Deckler, and today we're going to be talking about how Microsoft has utterly abandoned Power BI at this point. And I know you're probably like people out there thinking, "Oh God, Greg, here you go again on your tirade, a little tirade about this or whatever." But actually, before you make a judgment, just hear me out. I think what I'm going to present is pretty compelling evidence that Microsoft has just totally given up on doing anything with Power BI in the future. So, first up, as far as we have this Microsoft Ignite 2024 book of news, which Microsoft Ignite just wrapped up a couple weeks ago. And here's an interesting thing. So if we go ahead and hit Control F here, we search for Power BI. Power BI appears exactly one time, a singular time, and it's actually in conjunction with Microsoft Fabric, right? But it's only mentioned Power BI is only mentioned once. Versus we go with Fabric. Fabric is mentioned 39 different times within the book Ignite Book of News. And if you think about this, right, the latest cool features that have come out, right, uh, the multiple apps per workspace, right, multiple apps per workspace, only with Fabric, right, Fabric databases, only Fabric. Even the write back capabilities for Power BI, people are calling it, oh, Power BI write back. No, it's Fabric. You have to use Fabric. It is Fabric write back, not Power BI write back. Power BI by itself does not support write back, right? You have to have Fabric databases and you have to use Fabric in order for the write back to have the write back capabilities. So are these people that say, oh, it's Power, this like they act like these features are Power BI features? They're not. They are purely Fabric features. And Fabric is not Power BI, and Power BI is not Fabric, right? Power BI is part of Fabric, but if all these new cool features, right, require Fabric, then what good are they to Power BI people? They aren't. So that's just evidence one. But I would never dream of coming at you guys and making this claim of Power BI being abandoned, essentially, without having better evidence to back it up. And so the better evidence to back it up is actually in the form of a report that I've been putting together, right? You guys have seen this if you guys follow this channel. This comes from my Power BI releases. So I go out here and I go to each release, and I put the information in here, and we denote whether it's a preview feature, preview to GA feature, whether it's a Fabric feature, right? And we've got, all the categories and everything, even though Microsoft keeps changing the categories on me. So and the interesting thing about this, though, is if I come back into here, like here's the November release, right? And it's gotten so bad. So I mean, like this is Fabric, and it says Copilot. You have to have Fabric. In fact, you don't only just have to have Fabric. You have to have a Fabric F64 Plus SKU, right, for anything related to Copilot to be able to use it. And the interesting thing I find, at least in this November release, is there's so little going on in Power BI that they have resorted to a new book, data visualization with Microsoft Power BI. Now, how many books have been written about Power BI? I mean, I've written 7, right? I'm working on 8 and 9, right? It's never appeared in this list in terms of a new book. Like there's probably 50 to 100 books written on Power BI. It's never been covered in any right any monthly update about a new book, and yet suddenly, because there's literally nothing going on with Power BI, now they're just throwing in stuff when a new book gets published. Like, how crazy is that? Okay, so let's take a look here. So I have updated this with November, all the way through November 2024 release. And you can see, see that it's obviously the amount of features that have been released for 2024 is obviously quite a bit down, right, compared to any other year, especially, 2021 was the heyday. There were 300 different features released in 2021. And now there's, 2/3 of that, right? And that's counting, in December, even if there's 20 some features released, right, you're going to be the lowest ever, right, in terms of feature releases for Power BI and Fabric, right? You have to understand that this number only gets worse, right? So if I come in here and say, because I flagged these as Fabric and not Fabric, right? So I say, okay, stuff that's not Fabric. See, these two numbers drop down even lower. So now you're going to might pull 200 features maximum, right? If you add in December into here. But it gets even worse, I think, than that. So if we come down here to category, And you have to understand that the data connectivity, right? All the connectivity stuff and connectivity stuff, like 90% of that is third parties building connectors for it. So and then Microsoft just certifies those. And also the visuals is the same way. So if we take those out of the picture, right, now we're only down to like 114 features, right? 114 features, and it's basically half of what it was in its heyday, right? So 200 roughly, and then 100 roughly. So roughly half. So if you're thinking about that, that's 114 divided by 11 months. So you're looking at barely 10 features a month. That's why they have to include books in this stuff, which I did not include that, right? At that one, that's just silly at that point. So I did not include that in my spreadsheet. But that's how bad it's gotten when you basically have just 10 features, and most of them are things that nobody cares about, or they're like really, and you have to understand how many preview features there are. So if we go in here and take a look, and this is kind of interesting, right? In terms of, let's go ahead and look at preview features no. So now you're down to 83, right? So now you're down to 83 things that you can actually use within Power BI. And so that, if we take 83 divided by 11, that right there, that's 7 features that you're getting that you can actually use because they're not preview. Like, how sad is that? Like 7 things to look forward to a month. That's pretty bad compared to, back in the day, 146 divided by 12, 12 different things. So almost double. Sad. It's a sad day to be doing Power BI, I guess. The interesting thing to me is that we do previews, yes, you can see that just as many things are getting into preview pretty much as before. Like 2022, for some reason, was very much, not a lot of things got into preview. But if you actually take a look at things that are getting out of preview to GA, and say yes, so way off its mark. Actually, 2020 there was 21 things that went from preview to GA, but now we're down to less than half of that, right? You can see that everything's just dropping off. So there you have it. Really, I think this is a pretty compelling case that Microsoft they've just abandoned Power BI. Like, it even is to the point where I've submitted quite a few bugs lately to Microsoft, and they're like, "Yep, that's definitely replicatable, but you should contact support." Like, what is a support engineer going to do? They're going to rewrite the product so that it actually works versus being buggy. Like, how is that even an answer, Microsoft? That's how little that Microsoft cares, right? This is how much they've given up on the product. Like, when you submit a replicable bug, they're like, we're not going to fix it. You should contact support. Just nonsensical answers, right? This is how bad it is to be in Power BI in this, in 2024, right? So, people will maybe give me flack for like, oh, starting up the Power BI Alternative series. Well, what are you supposed to do, man? We're left with a Power BI product which is just a buggy mess, right? And there is nothing going on in Power BI that's really driving the product forward, right? It's all Fabric, right? Microsoft's completely forgot about Power BI. They don't care about it anymore. So, what is this first person supposed to do? I want to be with a software vendor, that actually has some level of pride in their work, right? And puts out a non-buggy product that actually cares about their product and wants to drive it forward in terms of features and functionality. And we're not getting any of that from Microsoft right now. They are laser focused on Fabric, and I don't really think it's getting them anywhere. So that's all I had for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.